If everything is mind, then is there a place where all thoughts ever thought still exist? According to the Kybalion, the universe is mental. All is within the mind of the all. So what if you could access that very mind? What would you find? Imagine a boundless ocean of consciousness, more ancient than time, more subtle than light. It doesn't shimmer in the stars or echo through mountains. It exists in stillness and silence, in the breath between thoughts. This is where the Akashic Records reside, not in space, not in words, but in the living pulse of the cosmos. The word Akasha comes from Sanskrit. It refers to the fifth element, the ether beyond earth, water, fire, and air. Unlike the tangible four, Akasha is not something you can touch. It is space itself, the substratum of all existence. And just like a mirror reflects all it sees, without judgment, the Akasha is said to record every vibration, every experience, every intention across time, across lifetimes. But don't think of it as a dusty, cosmic library filled with old scrolls and tomes. Think of it more like a vibrational cloud, a universal hard drive, where every soul's journey is archived, not in words, but in frequency. Emotions, choices, karmic loops, all etched into this subtle field. You've accessed it before, in dreams, in déjà vu, in moments when time feels suspended, and you feel the weight of something larger, watching gently through your own eyes. What if your most vivid memories from childhood, or the strange pull you feel toward certain places, people, or fears are echoes from this field? You may not remember, but Akasha remembers. The idea of a universal record isn't new. It stretches like golden threads through many ancient traditions, hidden in plain sight. In Hermetic philosophy, rooted in the mystery schools of ancient Egypt, and passed down through Greek and Renaissance thinkers, we find this striking idea: all is mind. If everything exists within the consciousness of the all, then nothing is ever truly lost. Every thought, every action, every desire leaves an imprint not on paper or stone, but on the fabric of mind itself. In the East, the concept of Akasha as the primal element was foundational in both Hindu and Buddhist cosmology. Akasha is the womb of creation, the pure space that holds the dance of vibration. It is from Akasha that the first sound emerges, the sacred syllable, Om, considered the primordial vibration of the universe. In this way, Akasha is not merely passive space, but the living memory of existence itself. During the Middle Ages and into the Renaissance, mystics and alchemists spoke of a book of life, a celestial ledger in which one's deeds and essence are recorded. In Kabbalistic teachings, this takes form as the Akashic-like concept of Sefer Chaim, where every soul has a chapter. Hermetic alchemists believed that by purifying the soul, one could gain access to this record not as information, but as gnosis, direct experiential knowing. Fast forward to the 19th and 20th centuries, and the Akashic Records were reintroduced to the West through the Theosophical movement. Helena Blavatsky spoke of a field where all human experience was stored accessible through heightened consciousness. Later, Edgar Cayce, often called the Sleeping Prophet, brought the concept into mainstream mysticism. In deep trance states, Cayce would answer complex questions about people's past lives, health conditions, and soul purposes, often attributing the source to the records in the Akasha. But is this just poetic mysticism, or is there more to it? To understand how the Akashic Records might actually function, we must revisit one of the central principles of Hermeticism, the principle of vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. This teaching, found in the Kybalion, suggests that the entire universe is in constant motion, not random but rhythmic, patterned, intelligent. And vibration, according to Hermetic thought, is the bridge between the mental and the material. Every thought you think, every feeling you generate sends out a unique frequency. These aren't just fleeting psychological events, they are energetic imprints like ripples in the fabric of being. The Akashic field, then, can be imagined as a vast medium that captures these vibrations, embedding them into the eternal now of the universe. Accessing the records is not about time travel or psychic vision in the traditional sense. It is about tuning in like a radio dial, finding a precise frequency. Those who report access to Akashic information often do so in altered states of consciousness, deep meditation, dreams, trance, or spontaneous mystical insight. In these states, the normal chatter of the ego quiets down, and something deeper, more timeless begins to speak. Take Edgar Cayce, for instance. In a relaxed state, often lying on a couch, he would fall asleep, and from this slumber bring back detailed information about ancient civilizations, past lives, or medical treatments for individuals he had never met. He didn't claim these insights were from himself. He said they came from the records, a source of knowing, beyond the conscious mind. It is important to note this isn't about supernatural powers. It's about alignment between your state of being and the vibrational field you seek to touch. The Akashic Records, in this view, aren't separate from you. You are always within them, like a fish swimming in the ocean, unaware of the currents carrying it home. But are the Akashic Records real? That depends on how you define real. If by real you mean something you can see, measure, or extract with instruments, then perhaps not. But if you expand your sense of reality to include subtle perception, inner resonance, and recurring archetypal experience, then the answer may not be so easily dismissed. Modern physics, particularly in the realm of quantum theory and the holographic model of the universe, offers tantalizing metaphors. Physicist David Bohm proposed that the universe is fundamentally holographic, that information about the whole is present in every part. Like a fractal or a hologram, every point in space contains the imprint of everything else. If that's the case, then perhaps the Akashic field is not out there, but right here, interwoven with the very nature of space-time and consciousness. Furthermore, researchers in fields like transpersonal psychology and consciousness studies have gathered thousands of case studies from people who, under hypnosis or during near-death experiences, accessed seemingly impossible information, names, languages, historical details they never consciously learned. While science remains cautious, the consistency of these experiences raises a provocative possibility that consciousness may not be a product of the brain, but something the brain tunes into, like a receiver, rather than a generator. So what if the Akashic Records are not something to believe in, but something to explore carefully, respectfully, humbly? Here's a simple experiment. Sit in silence. Breathe. Focus not on what you think, but on what you feel beneath the thoughts. Ask yourself gently, without expectation, what am I here to learn? Sometimes the records don't speak in words. They speak in symbols and synchronicities and patterns that repeat until we finally pay attention. This isn't about certainty. It's about curiosity. Not faith, but attention. Now, let's return to Hermeticism, the ancient wisdom stream that whispers through the roots of both Western and Eastern mysticism, and see how deeply it aligns with the Akashic idea. The principle of correspondence tells us as above, so below. As below, so above. What exists in the higher, subtler realms has its echo in the physical. If the Akashic Records exist as a subtle archive of all thoughts and deeds, then they must, by this law, manifest into our daily lives through the circumstances we encounter, the people we meet, the recurring lessons we're drawn to. The outer world becomes a mirror of the inner narrative, written across the pages of our soul's story. Then comes the principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. This is karma, but not as punishment, as feedback. The Akashic Records aren't a court of judgment. They're a reflection. They show the seeds we plant and the fruits we reap, not to condemn, but to teach. Every choice vibrates outward, shaping what returns. The records hold this matrix of intention and consequence, not linearly, but holographically. And perhaps most powerfully, the principle of mentalism brings it all full circle. The all is mind. The universe is mental. The Akashic field isn't separate from you. It's not a place you go to. It is what you are immersed in. Your mind is a droplet in the cosmic ocean of mind. When your vibration shifts, when your thoughts become clearer, more coherent, more aligned, you resonate with higher layers of the field. You begin to download from it intuitively. Insights arrive. Clarity dawns. Not from logic, but from deep recognition. This is the secret the sages tried to pass down. The Akashic Records are not for knowing the future. They are for understanding the present. For recognizing the patterns we repeat, the wounds we carry, and the possibilities waiting to be born when we choose with awareness. To know your records is to know yourself not as a fixed identity, but as a story in motion. A soul unfolding across time. And the more you align with the higher truths of your being, the clearer that story becomes. Not because the universe gives you the answer, but because you begin to remember who you've always been. So, where does that leave us? Perhaps with a realization, both humbling and empowering, the Akashic Records are not some elite spiritual database guarded by ascended masters in celestial robes. They are not reserved for prophets, mystics, or psychics alone. They are alive in you, in me, in the patterns of our lives, the questions we ask, the healing we seek. You are not separate from the records. You are one page among infinite pages, a thread in the woven fabric of collective becoming. The question is not, can I access the Akashic Records? The question is, am I listening when they speak through my life? Because they do speak in that familiar ache that returns when we ignore our deeper calling. In the repeating relationship that keeps mirroring a wound we thought we'd buried. In the sudden clarity that arrives like lightning when we're quiet enough to receive it. Some say the Akashic Records are a spiritual metaphor. Others insist they are a literal field of vibration. But in the end, perhaps it doesn't matter. What matters is how we live as if our thoughts, our choices, our love all matter. Because they do. In a universe where nothing is forgotten, every act of awareness echoes. So take a breath. Feel into the space around you. Not just the room, but the subtle presence behind it. The field remembers. The field reflects. The field responds. And this is just the beginning. In Part 2, we'll explore how you can begin to attune to the Akashic field through meditation, sacred symbols, intuitive inquiry, and most importantly, through living in alignment with the wisdom already whispering within you. Until then, pause, listen, and maybe ask yourself, what chapter of my soul's story am I living today? If this journey into the Akashic Records has stirred something within you, a sense of familiarity, mystery, or a subtle remembering, then honor that. Because the records aren't just ancient scrolls or spiritual downloads. They're invitations. Invitations to deepen, to question, to feel. And as we prepare to move into the next phase, how to actually experience this field for yourself, remember, this is not a method, but a movement of the soul. There is no single path, no one-size-fits-all technique. Accessing the records is more about who you are being than what you are doing. In Part 2, we'll explore and the altered states of consciousness most aligned with accessing the records. Time-tested practices for attunement, breath mantra, sacred geometry, and the role of symbols, archetypes, and subtle imagery in decoding the field. And the most important key of all your intent, the purity of heart with which you seek. Because the Akashic Records are not about curiosity alone. They respond to sincerity. When you approach with reverence, not ego, they open. Not with noise, but with silence. Not with answers, but with deeper questions. We'll meet again in Part 2. Until then, stay awake. Stay listening, and let the field speak through you.